BLERD official podcast. We are so excited that you are here. My voice is getting better. You can hear a little bit of me. It's like I'm down to 2 packs today instead of 3.
Not the packs. Not the
I
packs.
sound like an old smoker. Like I need to
You should have got a prop so nobody would have known you
know.
was dying of the flu. You'd be like, is it a flu?
I know. I really should have been like, look, I don't know who got a job for me, but let me just come in these next 2 weeks and just knock it out. And
with that voice.
Yeah, and then the character dies, and then that's it. Like, let me just, because once his voice comes back, I'm gonna be back to my glory. But until then, let's meet my co-host, Hilton George. How are you doing?
It's
How
cold.
is the life? Oh, it's
cold. Everywhere is cold. You see the map, and it's just all blue and white. It looked like a pair of UNC Nikes. It's crazy. I don't like it at all. And it's like it's snow and it's wet and it's I don't like that. I don't mind the cold. I just don't like. I don't like that, the wetness.
You don't like the ice and the snow and
yeah, because people can't drive.
Oh,
and they ain't got this. They ain't got the right tires. They ain't rotated their tires since last summer, and they driving in their Prius with the 2 donuts on the front, going 80 miles an hour on 45, cutting through traffic.
He just come out. See,
I got words.
You got words. Right. Christi, you're in a cold state also. You are in New York City and it snowed there too. How are you, Christi Renee? How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. As usual. It's cold. I'm glad I don't have to go outside unless I absolutely have to. So that's nice.
Yeah.
But it was so funny because it started snowing here yesterday and had no idea until like in the middle of the night. I had to get up for something and was like, it's snow everywhere on the ground. Where did this come from? I got a whole window.
Welcome to the East Coast.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it snowed for a whole day and I had no idea. I don't really get out much.
Yeah.
Aaron on the West Coast, so she don't know what snow were to fall where she's
at.
Like, that'd be biblical.
We're like,
people would be like packing up their wagon trains and moving into their bunkers. And...
Yes, and so it's 73 degrees here in Los Angeles. I know. It's one of those things though. Like I wish we had a winter. Like we literally will have a week of like 60 and the low of 30, and we're like, we're freaking out, and it's just it just never gets that cold here. Or if it does at night it is cold at night. So at night you can go outside and it's like 30 degrees. But
it's a different 30. It's a different 30 than what we got.
30. Yeah. No, it definitely is. It feels completely different. But it's one of those things. Everybody who's out there, if it's snowing, if it's icing, be careful.
Oh, well, there's that.
Home. Yeah, because a lot of people, they for whatever reason, they get out in them streets, or like if you're a boss and you're somebody who can make the call, just call it off. Don't make people come to work. Like I remember I once worked at a place and the lady was like, she used to live in like Alaska or something. She was like, I used to live in Alaska and everybody needs to come to work. And we're like, this ain't Alaska. Like they don't even have the same tools that they would have to like make sure that the roads are okay.
Y'all ain't got a grain of salt in California.
Yeah, exactly.
Not one rock salt piece.
Exactly.
No Lowry's. Nothing.
It don't, and that don't work. That ain't.
You know what's funny though? You can drive. Like we go to Bakersfield because that's where my husband's family, lives or whatever. And they're on the way there. You go down and you basically go down, or you go up into this, like you go up a hill. And so it's called the Grapevine. And literally you have to check the weather before you go to Bakersfield because it could be 70 degrees here. You hit that Grapevine and it's 25. And it's only 30 minutes out of LA. Like it's like it's so cold. There's snow. People have to put it's snow enough to where you have to put like chains on your tires kind of. And it's only for like 20 minutes that you drive through the Grapevine, and then you get to Bakersfield where it's hot as hell. Like it's gonna, it's the weirdest thing ever that you can drive within an hour,
I bet
30
their whole
minutes.
family got Zoom subscriptions now. Y'all
Yeah.
ain't doing that drive every time.
Exactly.
Tell them to log in.
Well, and the other thing is, like,
Skype.
even when it doesn't snow, it's cold enough to where it's so foggy. Like, we've gone through there and it was like a horror film. Like, you could not see. And it was like it was awful. So yeah. So, but anyways, if you're out there, stay warm and enjoy the BOP. We're here to entertain you.
And if you do have to go out, just make sure your affairs are in order. There's lots of forms on LegalZoom, so you can get your will and testament, your next of kin, your power of attorney.
Up with this.
If you're gonna get on the road with your little slick ass tires, I can see the air in it. Going 70 miles an hour because you got to get some writs.
If your Prius has 2 donuts, get your wheel in place before you leave.
That's not why we're here.
He is really upset. That's BOP plus. That's BOP plus.
Well, see, this is why, because he lives in a cold state. So it's like, I would assume this is like the bane of your existence, that there always some just crazy person that goes up and ruins it for everybody.
I just say drive. It's like fighting at your proper weight class. Like drive at your weight class. If you in a Ford Focus, you got to stay in that right lane, bro. You can't be in that. Ain't nothing happening for you in that left lane.
In the left,
nothing out there for you. Don't even look over there. Just matter of fact, take that side view mirror off because ain't no way for you. Ain't no left turns for you.
Right.
You got to make all rights.
Dang.
That's crazy.
This is the thing, though. At least with like cold weather and like this, you guys get warning, so you could go. But why is it that everyone waits to the last second to stock up? Like, they wait till the storm is coming. Like, they've been talking about. Like, they were talking about the storm coming when I was in New Orleans. That's why I got stuck in New Orleans, because the storm was coming to the east, and they were like, "Guys, the storm is coming." And I just caught the rain, so the rain and the thunder, basically canceled our flight, but. Like, you guys been knowing for a whole week, and I just don't understand why y'all just don't stock up on ramen noodles, like something, anything. Just
always
pack
bread,
it all up.
Batteries, and toilet paper. I'm like, why? What is happening? Is it a diarrhea storm coming? Why?
Oh my God!
You can have the normal amount of toilet paper in your house when the storm comes.
Yeah,
people still box storm.
They clean it out. They hoard it out, right?
Resell it.
Yeah, we're going to get off the storm, but there was a new series that came out, and it was phenomenal. In my opinion, I enjoyed it so much. This show is called Echo. It's on Disney Plus. And you guys know, like, I am a huge Marvel fan, but I haven't always loved everything that they've done. Some things, I'm like, okay, it's cool. Yeah. This one I truly enjoyed, and I just loved it because it really had all the elements. It had everything that really makes for a good show. And we first met Maya. We met her originally in Hawkeye. So Hawkeye was actually one of my favorite series when they put out when Disney Plus first came out, they put out all these series, and Hawkeye was one of the ones I loved so much. And we met her. We found out that, she was an amputee. She was deaf, born deaf. And they incorporated that into the series. They incorporated those disabilities that she had, but it did not stop her. Like she's literally a poster child. If you ever feel sorry for yourself, you have to watch this series, because this woman right here has not been stopped by anything. Yeah. She was even talking about, leading up to the premiere of this series, of how, she came onto doing Hawkeye. She was so excited. It was her first acting job. And she was like, I just was like, I was going to work a week or a few days. And I just thought, wow, this is really cool. The next thing I know is they were like, we're going to actually greenlight a series for you. And she was like, I went from like number 7 on the call sheet to number 1. Wow. Like, where she is leading the charge on this series. And it's just phenomenal, because they were able to incorporate a really good past for her, where, we knew that she was Native American. We knew that her father had gotten, he was involved in the criminal element of the world. And we knew that she'd lost him, and Hawkeye, his character, had assassinated him when the blip happened. Hawkeye, went crazy. He was one of the people that he assassinated, but there was a reason that everything happened. And it wasn't until the end of Hawkeye that we realized that Vincent D'Onofrio, one of our favorite actors, yes, He was playing Kingpin, and Kingpin, who Maya worked for, actually assassinated one of his own guys, which was her father.
Yep.
So that was a perfect setup. So now that we get this series, it was pretty fascinating that they took all those elements and just took them up a notch. I just want to get your first impression of the series. Hilton, I know you and I mean, it's like, what was your first impression of Echo?
Well, they did something that I wasn't really expecting them to do, which was really drill down to her Native American heritage and story. And that was not part of the Hawkeye series as much as this. I mean, the incorporation of the Choctaw lore, like everything that you saw in the series referring to their legends and their Bible and their history of the first humans and everything is all Choctaw legend, lore, and religion and story. So they took it directly from the Choctaw Nation and incorporated it into the story, made it almost a character. And they redid her power from the comic books. Not that she was like this, super prominent character in the comics and everyone's like, oh, it's not canon, but her power drawing upon the experience and the skill set and the strength of her ancestors in everything that she does is an amazing new twist on her power. So it kind of also drills into and ties into, the Native American heritage. And the story takes place almost entirely on the reservation. I think it's in Idaho. And
Oklahoma.
It's Oklahoma.
in Oklahoma.
Yes,
Oklahoma.
Yeah. Amazing view of, the life on a reservation and the interactions with the people, on a reservation. And so they really did a really good job of telling that story. It didn't feel forced. It felt like you were being exposed to something new. It allowed for them to tell a different kind of story. And it was so authentic that, everything we loved about the Echo character that we saw in Hawkeye, we got. Yes. But then there's this backstory that kind of creates this continuum that we're going to like, okay, I can see this going forward, where they're going to go and where it comes from. So yeah, I kudos. It was very, very well done. Amazing fight sequences. Like really, really well choreographed fight sequences. And anyone who's here looking for some really, really, really good fight choreography, you're going to get it. You're going to get a lot of it. Some amazing action in here. It's funny. It's well written. It is subtitle where it needs to be and not where it's not. It doesn't wear you down with any of that. Right. So yes, it was all a plus for me.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, no, I agree. They took it up a notch. Like that's one thing I love about Marvel is that when they take a character and they give them a backstory and they give them heritage, culture, they they actually do the work and get the people. Like at the end, they thanked the Choctaw Nation for being involved, and they don't just like kind of do it. Like you go deep, like you get to really know. So Christi, what was your first impression of the series?
Yo, I loved it. Y'all know how, again, it's Marvel. You are absolutely right. I was going to touch on that. And the fact that Marvel really, when they pick one, they do not just pick it. And it's not just on a, some blind, just turning around, spin and, drunk darts. It is, they really get into the full scope. This is it's an incredible character arc that you get to see this girl go from, in a complete disaster. She's the hiding from her family, her loved ones, and just because she's just done so much, she feels like she's done too much. She does not want to connect with people. It makes it easier for her to do what she does. I think the casting in this is impeccable. Seeing some favorites, some folk that I've seen in other films. Her grandmother, was in, I believe she was just in Killers of the Flower Moon. Phenomenal film.
Oh, right.
Phenomenal film.
Right.
So and then we have, and then some just really good, blast from the past. That I'd loved seeing re-enter, the game and in this way. And again, it just is amazing how how they did this, and seeing someone with what, society calls disability.
Right.
They got a lot of ability, baby. She could do things I could not even dream of. And I think
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. I think it sets a really good precedent for, um, utilizing these talents that just come in so many forms. And again,
Mhm.
Marvel's ability to write the deepest depths of
Mhm.
the culture is so incredible. I love the coloring of it. I loved it. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. I absolutely love it.
I
I'm
did
actually
too.
wondering if she had a real prosthetic. I mean, the special effects in this were so good that
Ah,
you kind of like you had to remember. Wait a minute, is she an amputee? I know
I
she's deaf,
mean,
but I like
Right.
you didn't see any glitches in because the CGI is laid in such a way that you don't know it's there.
right.
Yeah.
Because it's not this fantastical Infinity Stone type story.
We need to look
But
that
there
up.
are things where she's doing some amazing stuff that has to be
Yeah.
CGI, but you would have to take yourself out of the story just to say, oh, wait, yeah, she jumped on a train from a bridge. Yeah, I'm sure that was CGI. But in the moment, you're like, no, that looked like she actually did
Yeah.
that. Like, and it
Yeah.
doesn't break the story up at all.
No.
The other thing that to add on what Christy was saying, we also got a nice cameo from Matt Murdock, the
Yes.
Daredevil, which
Yes.
means something
Oh,
very important, that the Netflix story arcs are now
Yeah.
canon in the MCU. So if you were watching,
Yeah.
Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, all of these are now placed and seen as canon. So the
Yeah.
Kingpin, with D'Onofrio playing him, his story arc
Yeah.
is going in, and they're just
mm-hmm.
kind of paving the way to get the Fox and the Sony universe in with all these
Yeah.
properties and all of these, titles that they brought in. So that this is, D'Onofrio is going to play the Kingpin
Yes.
whenever, Peter Parker and Spider-Man comes on screen. That's going to happen, and
Yes.
you're going to get our lovely Matt Murdock from our favorite Netflix series is coming back as
Yes.
Daredevil, and in the classic suit, an amazing fight sequence from him to
Yeah.
really, really bless the scene, just like he did in She-Hulk. Kind of come in for 2 or 3 episodes to
And
build that
Yeah.
just,
world.
yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
loved
Can I
it. I loved it.
can I add this though, since it just
Yes.
came up?
Yes.
Alakwa, I'm not sure if I'm
Alaqua
saying her name.
Cox.
Alakwa
Alaqua
Cox
Cox.
was born. Yes, is actually deaf, and she's an amputee. So, and
Yeah.
she also performed all her
Yeah.
own stunts
Yeah.
in this
Mm.
series. So
She's
that is
Mm.
never,
confirmed.
I don't know if she did all her own stunts. That I
That's
will.
that's a story. It's
Okay,
a
yeah,
story
I
that I
because
just read.
every one of these they have to have, like, for some of the scary stuff, like they can't afford for her to get hurt. So there
Mhm.
are some stunt people. They might
Oh,
not have been
absolutely. The,
credited,
the the train
but
scene
yeah, like
in
they
particular.
gotta, But they said, she was an amputee. She's never, like, said publicly what happened in her life. But yeah, she's like, literally, this character is her in a sense, obviously
Mhm.
a superhero version of herself.
Right.
Um, one thing I loved about the story, and I always love, because they'll obviously, you're gonna get some action scenes, and you're gonna get some, really cool just characters, and you get the cool culture and all this stuff. But what was rooted deep in the storyline was the fact that, this is a girl who lost her mother tragically.
Mhm.
We finally got the backstory of that, why her mother, didn't just die, like, of a disease, but actually died because someone cut the brake. So it was like her father's life kind of bled over into, their reality as a family. And then she lost her father the same way because of the stuff that he was involved with, that, violence bled into her reality. And here she is now back in this town. And she knows, like, her being here, her life is bleeding into this reality. But what you
Mhm.
really have is a young woman who is dealing with grief, who has
Yeah.
never let go of the trauma, the anger. And instead of, like, healing, she got mad. And Vincent D'Onofrio, at one point, he sees this in her, where he takes up for her, and, like, you see this ice cream man picking on her. And I mean, like, picking on a
Mhm.
little 6-year-old kid or something,
Kid.
like a
Yeah.
little kid, which, by the way, is her little cousin who actually played her. her real life little cousin.
Oh,
And
cute.
so, yeah. And so he sees her getting picked on because she, obviously is deaf. She can't speak. And the man is just being a horrible human being. So Kingpin, being Kingpin, pulls him to the side and beats him to death. Like, just beats him. Instantly wants to protect her and say, he calls his people and says, "Can you give me another jacket? I don't want Maya to see me." Looks up and Maya's standing there. This little 6-year-old sweet little girl. Up until this point, we just see her be so sweet. And instead of crying or being scared of what she's seeing, she walks up and kicks the guy herself. And instead of him going, any rational adult would be like, this is too traumatic for a child, even though she's, she wanted this man to pay for being mean to her. He sees this as his opportunity and his window to make her, what he feels like she has inside of her, which is he creates an assassin. And I mean, but the cool thing about the story and the cool thing about the journey you take with Echo is that every single day she is dealing with accepting her reality and trying to heal from this. And it took her culture, it took her family to help her get there. And so I mean, that part of the story, I mean, there were times where I just was like, she was alone and they kept saying, "You're not alone," and I think a lot of times when people lose people or something tragic happens, you retreat in and you do have this sense of loneliness.
That's a real tribe that was waiting for her and sad that she was gone, and half of them knew what she was into. And I really, really liked every accurate portrayal that I have seen of reservation life is very close knit. The tribal ties are really, really strong. The bonds are really strong. Like even in her case, her grandmother was like, we can trace our history on the mother's side all the way back to the first people that you keep seeing, looped over and over as to how they came about.
Yeah.
And, those bonds were there. As soon as she came back, there was these open arms flung open. And it's part of what activated her power. I don't know that if she had not been there on tribal land, surrounded by her people, would she have been able to tap into that power that she needed?
She started having the visions when she got back.
Right. And it was just like, okay, I see where they're going with this. There is a spiritual story being told. And this is not off brand for Disney in a lot of ways that Christi was talking about, because they just got finished telling this amazing Native American story arc with What If season 2. And so, I mean, they're really leaning into this. Now, I don't know how much of this is going to play out in phase 5 and 6 for the movies and TV shows, but they're building a really, really strong foundation of storytelling in a lot of the same ways that they did with the building of the world of Wakanda. And I hope they continue to capitalize and expand on that. But it's being treated with that same level of determination, seriousness. And even though I'm not Native American and I don't have anyone to the left or right of me to go, "Hey, what do you think of this?" I'm like, I can feel like, okay, I look at the credits and I see the accreditation and how they went into building it and doing it and constructing the story. And I'm just like, it has to be done this way. There's no other way to do it.
Yeah.
So,
this show, like a lot of them, like we saw Wanda and we saw, Hawkeye, and we've seen Loki and we've seen all these shows. The cool thing about this one to me felt like the most, like it was a 5-hour movie. Like I felt like you couldn't just jump in on episode 3. Like you needed to watch it. And it just built like, oh, it was so good. Go ahead.
Well, it was so weird. They actually dropped it, all the episodes at once, which they've never done before. Usually they like with Percy and all the other series, you got to wait from 1 week to the next and do the suspense thing. They drop Echo. They dump all 5 or 6 episodes, just like boom.
Okay,
like, what in the Netflix? And you just, just let it play. Just let it play, right? So I think if this is the way that they're going to go, and I think the reason they did it was because they have other properties and they don't want to pull people in too many different directions, but it worked.
Yeah,
it got great ratings.
It worked.
So might see
it
more
had great
of that.
ratings.
I think it's just another, just talking about the cultural soundness of this project. It's just another telltale sign of the truth actually matters. It really, really matters.
See?
And having folk that are brave enough, find the courage,
Mhm.
whether they're well funded or whatever. And see, that's when you're doing the right thing with a lot of money.
Yes.
You're the rich we're not going to eat because you actually made a conscious decision, gathered the right people, and told these stories. And again, it's from the culture to this actor in particular.
Hmm.
Mhm.
That is so. And it's in protest to what we went through for 4 years with the so-called uh president
Lunatic.
shit show
Yeah.
and what's happening
TV
right
show
now.
host.
And it can happen again because this mofo is still in the running. So what I love again about what they do is they find ways, and by they I mean this production, this company,
Marvel.
finds ways. I know I say it so much, so I just try not to. I try to find other ways to say this
Right.
company, because I feel like I am a Marvel maniac.
Yeah.
Just for whether I've seen y'all know me, whether I've seen it or not. I love it. I love it. It's Marvel, but I
They
feel
did make
like,
me mad recently, but I'll tell y'all that later.
oh Lord, I feel like this is these are signs that are, to say, wake up, pay attention. There are real stories. This is the history of this place.
Mhm.
Um, because you think about the struggles, like the people are struggling there. You see, there's not a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
What society claims is wealth. They have a different kind of wealth. And then again, going back to the beauty of the beginning of the people
Right.
of the tribe and just being able to, as Black people, we can even feel this and we desire this of being able to trace your roots. And it was important that they
Right.
touched on that with the mother side of the family. And so, but it says a lot, like it awakens, I guess, that spirit of desire to know where you come from, and how that creates trauma, and
Mhm.
the fact that her magic came to life, came to fruition, came to pass once she was reconnected with her home, which has
Right.
a story. She knows the
Mhm.
story, or she's learning the story. That
Right.
speaks volumes to how important it is to know where you come from.
I
And
thought
I
it
Absolutely.
was
think,
really interesting that
Absolutely.
the thing that they did that was really unique with this is that they wove into a superhero story the actual lore and history of a people. And we didn't
yeah,
even get that with Wakanda.
yeah.
Like
Right.
so, it to be able to do that and make that a deliberate decision, which was not a part of the comic, by the way. This was a
Mhm.
studio decision to do this.
See, that's what
Really,
I'm talking.
Yep.
really does stand out. And
Mm,
it ended up being like really interesting storytelling. And I hope that
Yeah.
this kind of storytelling, not just with Marvel, but in general, I think it kind of like I hope it's a cue that
Yeah.
like, okay, look, we can mix the historical and the fantastical in certain ways. We do it with all these other shows. Like, why not
Mhm.
try and do it with these science fiction and superhero shows that people are already watching, right? So,
Yeah. I love it. And what's so funny is that, you kind of touched on this where it's like, um it really is like the truth, right? Like you're
mm,
telling the truth of the people, and you're telling, and I mean, we live in a country where this land was stolen from the
these very
native
folks. Hmm.
indigenous people, right?
Hmm.
And so it's like at one point there was like the mob of like, they were like, oh, Marvel's too woke, Marvel's too, like they were trying to get that going.
Oh
And
my God.
it like was dead on
Fizzled.
arrival. It was dead on arrival
Mm-hmm.
because it's like they are keeping it real, and it is like kind of ruffling some feathers for some people, but they also do such great work that
Hmm.
it's undeniable.
mhm.
Even those
Hmm.
haters, even the haters, like usually some of the bloggers that are like they hate everything and they pick everything apart, like I watched some of the shows just to see what they were saying about Echo, and it was like they were picking apart the stupidest things because they just had hate, like they just
You had
can't
nothing
say
else to
nothing
do.
nice. But they
Hmm.
couldn't hate on the show because the show was so well done. The story was so well done. The action was so well done. And the actors really delivered, and
Yeah.
they really brought it. Like every single character made sense. Every single character, it was like it made sense. I can't wait continue this journey of this family, and just seeing the way that she grows, because we know she's gonna show up. They're setting up the new Avengers, like they're setting up the new regime of superheroes that are all going to come together at some point. And right now we're just getting all of our we're getting all of the backstories, and we're getting to fall in love with all these people. But that one of the last scenes, okay, so obviously she figures out that she has this power, and she figures out that her mother, and it's funny because her mother showed her that she had the power, and it probably was trauma, probably was other things, but one of the flashbacks, she remembers her mother, like she'd shot a bird, right? And the little girl was like, I didn't mean to hurt the bird, I just wanted to see the bird. Yeah, you didn't see it because it was like later in the thing. So you could tell who didn't finish their homework. So she shoots this bird, right?
I remember this.
Do you? Where she shot the bird, and then she brings the bird to her mom and is like, Mom, I didn't mean to hurt it, but it's hurt. And she goes, she didn't just fall out of the tree, did she? And she was like, no, I just wanted to see what happened. I didn't know it would hurt it. So anyways, her mother touches the bird and starts to help heal the bird. So at that moment when she was like 6, she saw her mom with these powers, but it was probably too much for a 6-year-old to comprehend. And then, she loses her mother very soon after. So it's one of those things. But the moment that I really love, like one of my favorite scenes, is she gets into this, huge argument with her grandmother, but then later finds out that her grandmother has possibly been hurt or abducted, or something has happened. And she goes looking for her, and she breaks in, goes to the house, and she goes to that back room, and she opens the door, and she sees that her grandmother all along, even though they'd been butting heads and they weren't getting along, she had been making her costume, or she'd been making, like, this is the suit that you're going to wear because I know who you're becoming. You're becoming this superhero that has always been, it was always inside your mom, and now it is in you, and it's coming. And she just stops dead in her tracks, and she knows, like, and it just, I mean, that was one of my favorite scenes. What was one of your favorite scenes? If you had a favorite scene, was there one that just really stuck out to you? We'll start with you, Hilton.
Well, this is what is known as the street level Marvel series, right? So you got, you got like, Luke Cage, and you got, these, the coming up Defenders, even some of the Doctor Strange stuff will be street levels. Spider-Man will be street level, even though he's been in these fantastical stories. So we don't really have that defined scene like you have in a normal Marvel movie where, the big bad galactic, thread is standing and our heroes are in a circle, and you hear
and
the
it's
music coming.
The battle's coming.
Right. It's a real dark, gritty. So I think if you're gonna pick out a scene, because I was talking about this with you guys in BOP Plus land before we start recording about the fight scenes and the fight choreography. So I think that the best scene is when Daredevil shows up, and this is in episode 1, where she is breaking up this like her first foray into this crime world that Kingpin has put her into, and she's killing a lot of people. She's not really sure why, but she knows that's what she's here to do. But apparently she had been stepping on the investigation of the Daredevil, who's not too happy that she has messed up his weeks or whatever of investigation. And they go at it for a good solid 10 minutes. And just
toe to toe.
You got the classic Daredevil uniform with the classic stick with the string in between that we didn't even get in the series. And then to watch him at that level, we were having fun with him in She-Hulk. It was all brightly lit. He just popping up, reality is being bent. But this was the classic pose, the classic fighting style, the crap talking and everything, and the Matt Murdock showing up. Let me know that they were serious about this character, serious about this series. And, so when I saw that, I was through the roof. And that's really what set the tone for me. Because I didn't feel like, this is just some stuff from the cutting room floor during the COVID era that they just slapped together because they just had it. Like, no, they were seriously trying to make a story, make a statement. They got all the A-list stars. They put everybody in place, and they didn't skimp on anything. So for me, that was the one that set the tone and carried all the way through the series. Daredevil was the one.
I like that it was a test. Like, you know, we later find out that, you know, Kingpin was like, oh, well, you held your own with him, so you're ready. You're ready for this. Like, you're ready to go and be my thug or whatever. You know, you just, I'm gonna tell you to kill him, and you just go in there and kill him. You know. Christy, what was one of your favorite scenes?
So I have one really quick one, only because it was so nostalgic and I loved it, and I loved the exchange
like
between Maya and the guy who owns the skating rink. I love the whole skating rink thing. It just took me back.
Yes, yes.
I was like, oh, Henry, yes.
Her
I was
cousin
like, oh my
Henry.
God.
Was he her cousin? Like he was part of her
No,
family.
wait, the one who owns the skating rink?
Yeah.
Might be.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
I don't know. So
Yeah.
he's hilarious. I love their exchanges. You know, she's driving him crazy with the, you know, her mission. But I have to say, following that, I think my favorite, I love a good train on the train scene. And when poor thing, she loops her cousin, her little cousin.
Biscuits.
Biscuits is probably my favorite.
I
I'm
wanted
not gonna
more
lie.
biscuits. I wanted
want
more
more
of
biscuits.
him.
Yes,
Yeah.
more biscuits,
Biscuits
please.
was down like full flat tires. He's like, what? What are we
I
doing? Ah, all right.
I know. And he's just like, I'm gonna be late for dinner. Like grandma is
Right.
not gonna be
Grandma.
pleased.
I borrowed
Yeah.
her
He
truck.
had grandma's truck.
Yeah, ooh, and then brought it back when he came around the corner the next
He
day.
like,
I was like, oh
you're like,
Lord, she's
you're
gonna put
looking
a
at
spell
grandma
on
like,
him. But I thought that train scene was
yeah, it
immaculate.
was
It was
electric.
dangerous. I held my breath. And when she flew off that thing and into the truck, I was like, oh, where is she? And she was on the
Yeah.
time her way into
Like
the,
she's
oh my
like
God.
hanging on to the tailgate.
Yeah.
He
That was a good scene too. That was a
That
good
it
was
scene.
was a
great.
great, I
It was like
really enjoyed that.
what do you call it? A Mission
Mission
Impossible.
Impossible. I was looking for Ethan.
Tom
I was looking for
Cruise
Ethan. I
Yeah.
style.
really was.
You
Yeah.
know, it's like, and
Yeah.
we didn't even know what she was doing. Like the
She could be
story
in my
does
six
not
for sure.
foreshadow every move that these characters are making. Stuff is
Yeah.
happening, and we don't find out what she did or what was being done for like, you know, the end of the episode. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Now that I see. Oh, that all
It was
makes
great.
sense.
That was
It
a
was
great
all the
ending
setup.
to
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What about
That was
you,
really good.
Karen? What
Oh.
stood out to you?
I loved everything. I mean, you guys named two of my favorites. Like the Daredevil, when he showed up, I was like, ah, like I like almost just like died. Like I love when I see two superheroes fighting each other. Like it's something about that is just an edgier fight. And you know, I already knew, like I was like, this is gonna have some violent situations because like we already knew because you know it was a rated R. Like it's never that. Like Marvel never puts that out, and they were like, no, we're going for it. This has to be edgier. And especially if she's like, you know, we first meet Maya, she's an assassin. You know, she's not like this. She's someone who learns like what her purpose is. Not, you know, but she starts off bad. You know, she shows up to kill, you know, Hawkeye. And that's all she wants to do.
She's killing people and having dinner with Kingpin, reminiscing about the job and
yes, and just
and all the people she killed. Like,
yes. But I loved this situation at the skating rink where they basically kidnap Henry, they kidnap her cousin, the female cousin, and they kidnap her and they have them all and like they have her in that room. And these two dumb girls, like these hicks, these hillbillies, are the ones guarding the door. And you already know, I'm like, these girls are gonna die. Like I'm excited to see them die because I can already tell I wouldn't like you in real life, right? And so like I love the fact that Maya wasn't just like this assassin, and she was very intellectual. Like at one point she had to figure out a way to create a weapon to get out of that room because once she got out of there, she needed to be able to do something to, you know, distract them to defend herself. And so she's like MacGyver. Like she
gets that from her grandfather. Yeah, that she is tinkerer. Yeah, she can tinker.
Yeah, she was like getting those little pieces of the skates and getting all that stuff. And then she comes out, she has like a gun with it shooting out skate, like skate screws. Like I was like, come on, Maya. She like
brilliant.
shooting skate. Yeah. So that really, because to me, it's those little things that you add that later, when she comes into a series where there's like all these superheroes, you're really going to know that she has a leg in, where she has something she can do that other people can't do outside of being a superhero. They're all superheroes, you know?
Right.
What was that one line in like Infinity War where, you know, he was like, we're all superheroes, you know? Yeah. Miss Marvel shows up and he like, look, I don't know where you've been, but we all been doing this superhero shit for quite a while now. Like,
let us in.
Right. So what is it that you can do? So I love that they just really added depth to her character. Like, she's not just an assassin, she's not just a vigilante, but she's actually very intelligent also. But you guys brought up, Christy, you brought up the scary guy, the guy who took over our country for 4 years, the talk show host. The end credit scene in this is going to be a huge spoiler. So if you haven't watched Echo, I mean, we've been spoiling this whole episode, but this is the end credit scene where, you know, we know in that last battle, you know, Maya could have killed Kingpin, but she didn't. She put her hands and she echoed through his brain and she changed him. She changed him enough to where at the end of it, he was like, what did you do to me? You know, so
he went all Last Airbender on.
Yes, totally. Right. So then the end credit scene, you see him and he's all like in his private plane with this secretary. And he notices like they're looking for a mayor of the city. And they like, you know, these mayoral candidates, they're not good enough. They're not bad enough. Like, you know, this country needs somebody who's edgier. And this country needs somebody that's blah, blah, blah. And, you know, Kingpin looks up and he's like, it's like I think that's the same moment that this orange guy had. And I was like, no, like the most horrible man. He takes a 6-year-old and turns her into a killer. And now he's going to probably become the governor of New York or something.
Well, listen, if they're doing like the comic, there's an arc for, you know, the Kingpin in the comic where he becomes a politician and he is running the city and he goes on this purification trip where, you know, he's like, not only am I going to make sure everything is clean and perfect in the city, there's not going to be any superheroes. There's not going to be any of that stuff. I'm going to be in full control. And he's just a dictator. He's like doing everything like this very Trumpian, you know, just type of dictator way. And this is where you get a lot of those modern defenders where the street level heroes fighting are, you know, this Thanos style. I'm justified because I know I'm right. And therefore that justifies anything I do. And I think that might be the direction that they go for, you know, Midnight Suns, maybe even, you know, the Defenders and probably not Thunderbolts. But if they're going to bring back D'Onofrio, this is the arc he's going to take. And that post-credit scene is going to be the one. And I just love, like I said, I don't think anybody could have played Kingpin better than Vincent D'Onofrio. Like, I don't think there's any performance or anyone who's just the look and the gruffness and who could just, over the course of like multiple series of playing him, has given so much weight, no pun intended, and depth to the character that, you know, nobody else could just come and pick up.
Yeah, you know? He's not even that big in real life. Like they've made him more.
They padded his suit out, kind of gave him a little.
Is this my cue? Is this thing on? Is this
Christy,
my
tell
cue
us about Vincent D'Onofrio. Tell us about him. Go ahead.
Was that my story?
Was that my invitation to talk about?
Obviously.
When I sat down at lunch with Vincent D'Onofrio one day.
Pixar didn't happen. Pixar didn't happen.
This is one of those.
It's like one of that story she told about Rosario Dawson. Oh my God.
You was a part of that too. You told the same story.
I was a part of that one.
And matter of fact, wait a minute. Who gassed me up to go over in my to sashay in my bright yellow Power Ranger suit and sit down and ask him to just meet him. I just wanted to commend him on some of his work. I want to say this though. I mean, again, beautiful soul. In real life, to have that exchange that we had.
You seem like you skipping over a whole lot. Like you
know,
stop
like
it. I sat down. He's a beautiful soul. Anyway, so next thing, wait a minute, hold up.
I thought I told this story before. I told this last year, honey. It's last year's news. I can't wait to see him again. I hope to see him again soon.
Whoever you got on speed dial is between you and Jesus. That's between you and AT&T.
MCI. So listen. You so funny. So listen, I have to say this about him. Hilton, you just said nobody else could have played him. I thought that he is phenomenal as this role. And what I loved is that he brought this his signature way to speak. He catches his breath in mid word and sentence sometimes, and it's the way, it's the timing of it. I mean, it's a very he has a signature sound like Jeff Goldblum. Like we all
Mhm.
know we can, do certain things, or even
I
Obama.
was a boy.
President Obama has a way of
Mhm.
saying
Yeah.
certain words, and he brought that same energy and that same frequency of speech, and breath. And I thought, well, and I might be extra, hanging on every word extra for, my own personal reasons.
Mhm.
But I loved seeing that. It's something that, again, is signature, is recognizable, and his delivery, his just his presence, again, with that big old body thing he had on, it's like huge.
Yeah.
It's almost bizarrely shaped, but
She
that's
gonna
the
she gonna finish that story after
I
she
know
walked
she
up
was
on
supposed
him
to
in
leave
Bot
out the
Plus.
crush that
I'm
she
gonna
has
She,
on
she
him,
didn't look.
and
I'm
She
like
didn't.
gonna need
That's
just
this
like,
Bot
one
Plus. When y'all
"Hi,
now.
log into
Vincent
Bot Plus, it'll be
D'Onofrio.
in the selection. It'll be
I'm
an avatar for it. Will be
Christy.
Vincent
I'm
D'Onofrio, and then
I'm
she'll talk
Christi
about when they went.
Renee."
They went roller skating,
Uh,
and
yeah, we need not roller skating
I don't know. I don't know
In her
what Christy
dreams,
do on a
right?
date.
in my sure in my dream. If we doing anything in my dreams, we going roller skate.
There you go.
Yes,
But yeah, I think he was a great choice. Again, everybody was good.
everybody.
Again, down to again, my favorite character is
For
Biscuits. I ain't gonna
everybody
lie.
out
Yeah.
there, to Christy's point, if you go and watch on, it might still be on Hulu. It's called Reservation Dogs.
Mm,
There are a lot of these
Yes.
actors that are in Reservation Dogs that are in this, who are
Yes.
first and second time actors from the Native American community. And I mean, they just really, really bring some amazing new faces. I love new faces, especially
mhm.
in big productions. And they are in this, and they are in Reservation Dogs. There's some amazing storytelling on the Native American story. And we mentioned the new Scorsese film that
Yeah.
has some of these actors in it.
Yes.
So these are
Yes.
these are some really great, and they're all authentic. Like there's nobody
Yeah.
Yeah.
pantomiming or
Pretending to be the
pretending to
culture.
be
Yeah.
Oh
Native
wait,
American. Everybody is in this. Is real.
Yeah.
I have to say this. We talk about. Let me add an extra scene.
Oh
The
Lord.
grandfather in his shop when the white
That
people
was
came
hilarious.
in. I,
Right. And they
I
were
you,
like, do you
I
have a
mean,
rug? Or like
and then he was
Right.
and then the way he
stereotypical
was
stuff.
feeding into it, it was so
Hmm.
hilarious. Like y'all
Yeah.
are the joke of life right now.
Yeah.
That
But
scene was
it
pulled
was perfect.
directly out of a movie called Maverick with Mel Gibson. He was a
Yeah,
grifter,
yeah.
and he got that whole poker face. I'm going to sell you something and give you the story. The spirits, just trying to sell this to these tourists. Don't give a shit about
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
future. It's that same thing, and he has brilliant comedic timing, and
Yeah.
it's just so glad that we get to see some of that in this, and I hope he's around so that we can. I mean, we even saw him in The Last of
Yeah,
Us a little bit, and he was
Yeah.
funny there. So I
Hmm.
was so glad that they let him be a little funny because he really
yeah.
lit up the
It's the
screen.
comic relief
Yeah.
we need. That's
The comic
it's a
relief
heavy
and
story.
the weight and the heft, he still carries that
Yeah.
gravitas so
Hmm.
well. Ever since his first movie, was it Dances with Wolves?
Mm,
Yeah. Graham
He's just
Greene is
super.
the actor.
Yeah. So
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
yeah,
He's
absolutely.
amazing. Legendary
yeah. He
Native American actor. Yeah, and this is the thing. I really hope that this kicks off a lot because like a lot of people shined in this. And so I hope it kicks
is.
off their careers in other projects because, I love that they were obviously playing part of their culture, but it's like these are talented actors. They could be in any role. They
In
could
any role.
handle it like any role.
Mhm.
But one thing I will say, Marvel actually made me mad recently.
Oh boy.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
T.
I was not a
I
Let
big
know, right? Hey,
fan of some decisions. Now, you guys know we talked about it in one of our last episodes of the whole Jonathan Majors of it all. And I love the show Assembled. I love it. They have assembled for Loki season 2. It
oh.
is a travesty. It is a travesty because they obviously shot this and they did this whole thing, but someone went back and edited Jonathan Majors out of all of it. He shows up and it's like, how are we talking about season 2 and we're not talking about Kang the Conqueror?
Are you
We're not
Not one
serious?
talking
word.
about what he like. They talk about Loki, they talk about Obi, they talk about every single character, even the guy who was pretending to be a Hollywood star. Like, he even gets a vignette of let's talk about his character. They took out the whole Jonathan Majors of it all, and I think it's such a travesty, because the reality is he was the bad guy. He was at the heart of the story.
Point.
He is the reason that Loki and all of them are traveling and trying to figure out how to fix the loom and how to do this, and Miss Minutes, and everybody is like, it is just so crazy that that's what they like. Someone made the call, and I think it was the stupidest call, because even if you're like, okay, we need to kind of separate ourselves. We don't want to, our action heroes are squeaky clean, and this is what we do, and this is how we've always been, and we're not gonna, and I will say that, like, like the whole Ezra Miller situation with DC, how they try to pretend like Ezra wasn't acting crazy and doing crazy stuff, and they put the movie out, and they even brought him to the red carpet. Like, I was just like, come on, y'all. Like, that's a little much for someone who's been violent towards people and has robbed stores and done stuff, and I love the Flash. Like, that was honestly my favorite character out of when they had all those movies. He was the only one I really liked, outside of Wonder Woman. But it was just one of those things where I was just like, if I get you want to separate yourself, but it is so dumb. When this series, he was the reason. He was the reason.
Reason for the season.
I will postulate a theory.
Yes.
And I
like your theories.
There's no way to know for sure until somebody come out spilling the tea from the source.
Yes.
But based off of everything I have seen and read and heard, Jonathan Majors was on his way out since Ant-Man. They started writing down the Kang leaning of phase 5 and 6 at Quantumania. And I think there's three reasons for this. One, obviously the charges starting, in that whole situation since last March, just relentless, just bad news on top of bad news, which no studio would want, a major, load bearer like him to have. But second, I have heard from multiple sources that he is insufferable, that he is just insufferable on set. I heard that he is mean to assistants. He doesn't bond with the other actors. and the people behind the scenes. And long story short, like, nobody liked him. Still not a reason by itself.
Yeah.
But I think that when Quantumania did not break the box office, and they blamed it on him, they're like, we're giving them all of the Kang we got in the second movie where he's showing up. Forget the series. We are giving them Kang. Kang is the big bad.
Ant-Man had other problems. It wasn't just
him.
It
did.
That had other problems.
Did. But I think he got an unfair shake, because I loved his performance. I really thought he knocked it out of the park. But I think they decided, with all of those things coming together, and they saw it coming, they started writing him out of the script. Because what you notice in Loki season 2, he is the subject in the first 3 episodes. But then it kind of morphs where he's not the subject and Loki's the subject. And he ends up being the keeper of the stories, the god of stories. And then they roll out that Kangs are just something to kind of keep an eye on, because the TVA is back. TVA wasn't supposed to come back. It was supposed to be a big battle for the world of Kang, and all the Kangs had come back at the end of Quantumania, and we were going to see some of that. And all of that. Miss Minutes was not resolved. They never resolved.
And that was the one thing that creeped me out.
That we didn't get a resolution on Miss Minutes. We didn't get a resolution on Renslayer.
I think that's why it hurt.
We didn't get anything. And I think they were writing him down. I don't think they were pulling his scenes out. I think they were like, we are writing you out of the story, because nobody on set can stand you. There's one thing I know in Marvel Studios. You see those guys hanging out. Everybody is a love fest. Like, even the people that don't love are in part of the love fest when you see the behind the scenes for every one of these movies. I don't think they had any reel for that, where Jonathan Majors is hugging, hanging, laughing, or kicking with everybody. I think everybody was on pins and needles.
Method acting then went way too method.
And nobody ever method acts as a good person. They're always method acting as an asshole. And it's never the other way around. Like, I'm just going to be this jolly person. I'm method acting. Like, no, it's like, I'm doing it. I'm going to make everybody uncomfortable. So I think that's what happened. And then by the time you get to your point, when you get to Assemble, because I noticed it too, I was like, Victor Timely is nowhere in here. He's not in. You're not seeing any scenes with him. He wasn't anywhere in the last scenes of the last episode.
Right.
Like he wasn't even, So they were writing him out. I knew they were going to get rid of him regardless of the verdict. They used the verdict as an excuse. It was just a trigger. It's probably some clause that they was like, we got to wait for the verdict. Because of this clause, so we can fire him. Because if we fire him before, we're going to get sued. There's going to be all this contract stuff. And it's unfortunate. And I think that's why the brother, if he gets help and if he's able to kind of turn some of this stuff around and grow up a little bit, I don't know what else to say. Right. His talent is something that we just, he's a singular talent, but a lot of folks like him with a lot of talent, they really don't do well on set. I said this before, Marlon Brando's the biggest asshole in Hollywood history. Like nobody like Marlon Brando. Just stacks of awards, decades long career.
Yeah, he was a huge
Streetcar
asshole. Named
Desire to the Freshman,
to the Godfather.
There's nothing, no problems. I mean, like I said, this is why Jor-El is wearing a wristwatch in Superman the movie, because he take your wristwatch off. No, shoot the scene, and that's what we got. So yeah, Jonathan Majors is everything that you said, but I think it was deeper than just them writing him out in that scene. They were planning to get rid of my man for a minute, and this was we just caught the back end of it from the outside.
And I, what, everything you're saying, it makes total sense, because I felt like Loki started, like season 2 really started, and then it just went nowhere, or it just like things didn't, and like I was shocked because I know they spent years, there was years of figuring out where they were going to go with this, and they had a whole start, middle, and end. And when you start messing with it while it's going on, it just never works out. Like, that only works out for like, a sitcom that comes out every week where you're like, okay, let's punch up the jokes and let's, we're going to get an audience reaction in real time. That only works.
You're going to write Lisa Bonet out the script and say that she's transferred or something,
Right.
They could do that on a sitcom, but when you're writing out, like, you got a whole map for the next 10 years, phase 5
that
and 6,
has to make sense.
It don't make no sense now. Who's the big bad if it ain't Kang? We still don't know.
We still don't know. We still don't know. I mean, you've had theories. You threw out a theory last week.
It's Thanos.
It's Thanos again. I thought we chopped his whole head off.
It's a Thanos from another multiverse. It's a that's what. Here's the thing.
In the comics, if they bring him back as in another, he's actually a good guy. So that would be weird.
So
yeah, I don't want a good Thanos. There are so many other big bads that pop up.
Right.
So
that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of what they've done. And I think it's unfortunate. We've talked about this with the whole thing with Jonathan Majors. I also feel like, again, in the melanin way, that the microscope gets a little more, intense. The power turns up on some of us, and there are greater extremes and measures that are taken in those instances. So we said, I hope he comes back. I hope he gets fixed, get it right.
For sure.
Do not be an asshole. But there are so many Marlon Brando ain't the only one. Like, so many of them, and people have gotten into trouble, and they've done these things, and studios have continued to promote. So, having said that, I had another point and I forgot what it was. But anyway, so I was gonna say what about Plus? No, I was just gonna say that this is what they.
Yeah, you can fill us in on that story.
I'm done. There's
no story. First of all, let me just put this out there. I think the man might be married.
Karen, I was teasing out Bob Plus. People were ready to chuck out.
I know. But I don't want to like God forbid, like his wife is like
no story.
Yeah,
this is D'Onofrio's wife. You can come on the box to clear his name
on him. And literally, like, he was the nicest person. Like, she went up and he was so like, nice. Oh, thank you so much. Like, and just with but that's why I think he does Comic-Cons, because he has the ability to connect with his fans and with people who love his work. And he does
all I cared about was telling this man to his face how much I loved him in The Cell. And because
underrated movie.
So
Hugely
underrated,
underrated movie.
so underrated. And so he
Yeah.
was incredibly and graciously grateful for that. And I just, yeah, he was very kind. And when I asked for a handshake, he was like, how about a hug? Because when you interrupt somebody and we're eating, and it's like, and he was
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
phone, and
I bet he said it like the Kingpin. How about a hug?
Well, I'll
I
tell
got the
you why
first.
The Cell is like an underrated movie. You guys don't even know why it's so underrated. Like there's
Oh,
a
why
reason.
it's under?
Oh,
Yeah.
Is
Well,
there a
other
reason?
than
why?
it being like a really cool story and really cool thing and blah, blah, blah. But my dear friend Catherine Sutherland from Power Rangers is in The Cell. That is why
That
it's such a
part.
good movie.
Oh,
That is the
She's one of
other
the
part.
she's the original person they find dead. The girl that's
mm,
Yeah,
like drowned, like she's like this in water and looks yeah.
the
She is
mm.
milky. Yeah.
the Pink Ranger is in
Yeah,
The
come on.
Cell. That's why it's so
So,
good. Duh. I mean,
I
everything
mean,
we touch. So, anyways, Marvel, whoever made the decision, you can't do an assembled about a show and like leave out an
yeah,
actor. Like,
yeah.
even with all the stuff that's happening, like, give the people what we want. We want the real, how was this show made? How is this like, we want to know
Hmm.
how it was assembled. You can't just take out the main
You
character.
can't
Yeah.
erase him.
I
He's
know
a
there's
real
some
person.
Yeah.
decent B real.
Like
I
it
know
was
some
so
somewhere,
deliberate. And so it's like,
and it's
it would
obvious.
have just been great. Just tell us how it happened and like just tell us how this movie came about and all the
Hmm.
people who contributed and then move on. Like
Yeah.
it's not like you're going to spend, the whole hour, 2 hours on him. You're just going to probably spend about 10 minutes. Like
Yeah,
uh it was
let the
so
brother
deliberate.
cook.
Yeah.
He did some really great acting in the series, although the shortness of his scenes and stuff. And I would have
Yeah.
liked to hear his perspective, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's really unfortunate. I hope he bounces back and gets into something real quick and gets himself and gets his life together. But like I said,
It's
they decided a long time. It's like when
yeah,
you get
no.
fired from your job, you didn't get fired that morning. You got fired
No.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The
It
paperwork
was
just
like
came
some
back this
citations.
morning. Like
There was some
this firing
warnings.
been going through the back offices for a
There's a
minute. This
file.
paperwork, that email been going.
Yes.
Need you to
Yes.
sign off on this for legal counsel. Need you to
Yes.
sign off on this from HR.
Yes.
We need a
Yeah.
finger stamp.
Yeah,
of that.
no. You done
Well,
went
That's
too
it
all
makes
long.
me
it
wonder, is he the character he's most true to life to, is who he played in Creed 3? Because that was I
That
wonder
was an
if,
unlikable,
yeah.
yeah. That
And
was
he
a
what
guy that was like petty and unlikable and
yeah.
hard to deal with and
Maybe that was one of
unpredictable,
his sources of his acting,
Maybe he wasn't
aggressive.
acting.
reservoir.
He wasn't
Like
acting in that.
Well, you know what they say though, like method actors, like they say sometimes like they get caught up.
Hmm.
Like you get real caught up when they
And
go through
reprogrammed.
steps.
And
Like they said, like a lot of like, what is the guy who played he was Joker in he was a really good
Heath
Joker.
Ledger.
Heath
he
Ledger, they said like a lot of it was the him playing the Joker kind of pushed him on an edge of he'd already kind of had an issue with prescription drugs, and it was just playing the
pushed him
Joker
over.
brought out things that
Watch the B
mentally,
reel.
physically, emotionally,
Mhm.
yeah, and
Watch
it
the B
was
reel of him, and there's some of that in the Dark Knight box set where the scene where, and I know we're going off a tangent, but since you
yeah,
brought
it's
it up,
okay,
the scene where he blows up the hospital and hops on the
Yeah.
bus, where he does a
yes,
little click, and he
yes,
jumps on the bus. Okay, first of all, that scene was improvised. It
Yep.
was an actual glitch with the system, and he caught it,
Yeah.
jumped in the thing. They actually had a
Great.
camera in the bus. There's no camera on him in the bus. This is that helicopter scene of watching the helicopter, watching
yes,
the hospital blow up. He doesn't even look at the explosion. Like he's that much in his character that even when he's off camera in the bus,
yeah,
right after that scene where it pulls off and they literally blew up a hospital like 100 feet away. It's this huge
yeah.
explosion. Anybody else would have at least been like, "Damn, look at that!" Like,
Or you would have just
Mhm.
something,
he
some
never looked,
reaction,
never looked at it, and that's how deep
yeah,
into his character he got. So
yeah,
we were blessed with a great performance, but
yeah,
we didn't get the recovery that brother needed.
yeah,
Hope that doesn't happen to our brother Jonathan. I hope Jonathan
yeah.
gets everything
Well,
he needs so we
they
can
were
see him.
having like this whole like discussion recently. I watched this, like it's called Roundtable, and they have all these different actors and actresses and directors, and it's really good. It's like if you have Spectrum Cable, they do a roundtable. So, anyways, they had Fantasia was on there and a lot of other actresses, and she was talking to them, and she was really sweet. Like she really talks about how The Color Purple changed her life because she was very much like the character Celie, where she had been molested and she had been abused and she had felt like she was never pretty and felt like she never had a voice. And originally when they asked her to do the part, she was like, I don't want to do it because it's just too dark. Like, I don't want to go back there. Like when I did it on Broadway, it was torture for me. But she said doing it again the second time, she was in a different place in her life and it really was a healing mechanism. It was almost like therapy for her. But she asked the other actresses who were on the round table and she goes, you know, do you guys ever struggle because like you go in these deep dark places to get these emotions and these like you got to deliver, you know, multiple times. And she goes, if you ever feel like, you know, like you just can't shake it off, like, and it was so sweet because what is the actress? She has red hair, she's gorgeous, she was in Hunger Games. She's oh my god, she's so beautiful. She was the
Jennifer
she was Pen Am. She was Pen Am, like she was the head of Pen Am, and she was like
her. Oh, I just watched the movie with her.
She's in that new
May
movie.
December. Yeah, I just watched that.
Yes. Okay. Hold on. May, December. Gosh, why can't we think of her name when we need to think of her name?
Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore. Yes. She's on this round table. Julianne Moore, who is like literally like she is literally like Juilliard. Like she is a talented, went to, you know, she's an actress, but she knows the method, right? And she literally was like, oh honey, I'm so sorry. She goes, you know, there is a method to get yourself to those depths, but a part of learning that there's a method to bring yourself out of it. And like in that moment, you really catch a glimpse. Like these people aren't just on screen crying on cue. Like there's a real, true emotion. But that's why they're winning Oscars. And that's why Fantasia, when you see Color Purple, she shakes you to your core because it's like, so good. That was real. It was like every emotion was a real feeling. And in that moment, those tears were genuine tears. That pain was genuine pain. So yeah, so if you ever get a chance to watch that, I know we're way off beat. That's
okay. This is good
but
stuff.
It's like
it's good stuff.
You know, it's just like the method of acting. Like it's so and intriguing to me.
That's what May December is about, literally, with Natalie Portman and how she comes in and she, you know, ultimately doesn't shake it. She almost succumbs to, and then of course it's an abrupt, you know, ending.
Yeah.
You're like,
so Julianne Moore, if you're out there, I apologize for not knowing your name right in the moment. I should have known your name.
And I'm sorry, I struggled
you're worth
so
it.
hard.
You're worth it.
Yeah,
you and many other actresses deserve that.
She is. She's
deserve for me to know, but I'm absent-minded and crazy. And we're at the end of the episode. So I mean, come on. It's been a long one. Guys, I know. Echo. If you have not watched Echo, you have got to watch it. It is worth the watch. It's the story, the culture, the action. It is everything you need this to be. Get your life and watch Echo. Like immediately.
I always say, get your Disney Plus on.
Yes.
Like, find the password. Find the password.
Call your cousin.
Stop underestimating the Disney Plus channel. It has quality programming. It's not just Lion King and like Disney princesses. It is the Marvel section is giving good TV, good series, good movies. Like, so what are we excited about this week, guys? Are we just staying home and staying warm, or is there any excitement coming? Do we have anything to report?
I got my groceries yesterday, so all the snow don't bother me. I'm just looking out there like, sucks for y'all. Like,
you know, make some chili, make some ramen.
Ooh, that sounds
make
good.
some ramen, make some chili.
We do lots of those.
Just
ramen.
Do some do some caldo if you're a Mexican.
But what I will say this, is that we got to pick it up on, if not this next episode coming up, but the next one, we have got to watch, if you haven't seen it, American Fiction. That movie with Jeffrey Wright. Fiction. I mean, it is movie. It is movie of the year. It is movie of the year. It's so much going on. I can't even put it in a bottle to tell you what it is about. But it just.
I'll tell in a short moment.
In a nutshell, what is it? Nutshell. 20 seconds, Christi.
They literally take this writer and just over stereotype, and it's crazy, and it's Issa Rae. You can't go wrong with Issa Rae. And then
Yes.
What's her name?
Leslie
Oh my God,
Uggams.
Tracy
Erica
Ellis Ross.
Alexander.
Erica Alexander. You cannot go wrong with
Yeah.
any of them. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Sterling K. Brown, and the lead is Jeffrey Wright.
From the
You know,
opening
Tracy
scene
Ellis
to
Ross.
the closing credits, it's
Huge
just
acclaim.
nonstop
I love
emotional
it.
roller coaster, funny, sad,
Mhm.
outrageous,
Get you
amazing.
mad, all that. I
So
love
when
it.
you see it,
Okay.
you'll
Okay.
thank me.
Well,
That
we
and
are
Book of
gonna
Clarence.
Book of Clarence. Yeah, all of
We
that.
got
So we
stuff.
got a lot of things to watch. We got a lot of things to do. Until then, guys, thank you for watching the BOP, the BLERD official podcast. We love you. We mean it. Peace. Bye.
Bye.
Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode of the BOP, the BLERD official podcast.